Hey friends, welcome back to Faith It Till You Make It. I'm your host, Rachael, your spiritual hype girl, your snarky narrator, and your co-survivor in this chaotic thing we call modern Christian adulthood. Today, we are talking about my word for the year. Yeah, I'm that girl now, the girl that's picking a word. I've never been a New Year resolution girl because commitment is scary, even when it's to yourself. But every now and then I will jump on the word of the year bandwagon. Well, only when I feel like God is making me do it by persistently repeating a word over and over again, like a toddler asking why to everything. Last week, I was in a meeting with our student leaders from our youth ministry at church. And these meetings are meant to develop students to be leaders of their faith. And it's meant to be an opportunity to dive deeper into scripture and spiritual growth than just the typical midweek can take them. I have learned over the last several years in youth ministry is to never be so naive to believe that something you meant for the students is only ever just for the students. Oftentimes, it's for the adults too. And God doesn't really care that the intention was to develop youth. He's going to develop whoever he says needs it. So during this meeting, we were practicing discovering what author Jamie Winship calls the trash pile in our lives, which is so fitting for this podcast, I know. Jamie talks about how we have these rats in our lives that show up as anxiety and fear, doubt, worry, stress. You get the point. And we spend most of our time trying to exterminate the rats by attacking the rat and conveniently missing the entire trash pile that keeps attracting them in the first place. The trash pile is essentially the root of what draws the anxiety, the fear, and the doubt into our lives. And like most trash piles, it can happen over time. And with that passing time, sometimes we forget it's even there, hiding in the corner, and we just avoid it. So in this meeting, we did an activity to call out what we are walking with right now that has a fear rat associated with it. And then we looked at why we have fear in that thing. And then we followed that thread back to the trash pile that attracted that fear in the first place. And I casually participated in the activity to, just model the behavior for the students. And in doing so, God spoke. Actually, God yelled. And the word God would not let me get away from this year is reveal. Now, before you clutch your emotional pearls, let me explain. Reveal sounds beautiful, like a sunrise or a really fun makeover show. But most of us don't want anything revealed unless it's our winning lottery numbers. But here's the reality. We all have things we keep hidden from shame, fear, insecurity, control, or because we've convinced ourselves it's fine, I'm fine, everything is fine, while secretly dying inside like the plant that you just avoid watering. So this episode is going to be your permission slip and also a holy nudge to bring some things into light this year. Reveal the stuff in the shadows so it loses its power over you. And yes, we're going to back this up with scripture, practical wisdom, real life examples, and hopefully enough humor that you don't melt into a puddle of feelings on your commute. So let's dive in. All right, let's start with why this word matters and why it might matter for you too. So when I started this activity, I was thinking about 3 specific things that are shrouded in fear for me. And before I share these, I want you to start noticing maybe some of your own things that are shrouded in fear. What area in your life has a fear rat chewing on it right now? For me, the top 3 things that I was thinking about was the first is this podcast. I'm afraid that no one's going to care. I'm afraid that somebody's going to think I'm not authentic, or I'm afraid that I'm going to fail at it. And the second thing is this thing called Barnabas. So each year I go on a Mexico mission trip and I lead our Barnabas team. And the mission of our team is to be the encouragers of our missionaries. Our sole purpose is to act as a thermostat and not a thermometer. We don't just read the temperature of the trip. We set the temperature, and it's extremely demanding, but it's so worthy. And I have fear that I can't measure up to the previous years. I have fear that I will be a poor leader. I have fear that I'm going to drift away from the mission and strive for perfection instead. And I fear that as I age, I become less in the role. It's harder to keep up. My body demands more rest than I want to give it. And I fear that eventually there's going to be an end of me in this role, and it breaks my heart. And the last thing I'm carrying in my life with a little bit of fear is my purpose and role in our high school ministry. I attend Bayside Church and I love it. Our church has 10 campuses all over the region. And for a little over 8 years, I was a member of one of our smaller campuses. And 2 years ago, I started to feel a whisper of being called out of that campus and called into our largest campus. Over the summer, a void of female leadership in the high school ministry formed, and I was called to step in. So in with both feet I went. Well, kind of. Holding down a full-time government job has kind of kept me from being ever present, but I have been all in besides that. I have been fearful that I will not meet expectations or that my limited availability tells a story of limited interest and intention. I fear that this team doesn't know me and will get to know me and maybe not like me. I fear that I will become an outsider in a world that I feel so deeply inside of. And again, the age thing. I fear that as I age, I become less valuable and less relatable in the young world. Those rats have infested the most joy-filled parts of my life, and it was shocking to call them out. You know why? Because I've been hiding with all of it. I have been pretending that those rats are domestic little puppies trotting around my spiritual living room. And that's when I found my trash pile. I realized that there's this simple phrase that's been whispered over and over and over again when I was a child. My mom used to say, "What happens in this house stays in this house." That phrase was built out of fear of being all the way seen. It was only spoken when things were falling apart, like when our utilities were shut off. Don't talk about it. What happens in this house stays in this house. When lies and fighting were tearing apart our family, when poverty and poor choices resulted in government food and housing eviction, and when drugs and addiction were exposed, those are the words that we had to live by. What happens in this house stays in this house. My trash pile was keeping things hidden. And we live in a world where hiding is normalized. Hiding your struggles, hiding your stress, hiding your marriage issues, your burnout, your bank account, your doubts about faith, your temper with your kids, and your late night Googling of why am I like this? We hide because we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to look weak. We don't want to be judged. Or honestly, we don't want to do the work of actually facing the thing. But here's the biblical truth. God works in light, not in shadows. In Psalm 32, 3-5, it paints this beautifully. And David says, when he kept everything hidden, he wasted away. But the second he confessed, revealed, he found freedom. John 8:32 says, the truth will set you free. But the truth can't free you if you're hiding it like a bag of chocolates from your family. When scripture talks about light, it doesn't mean God is trying to expose you for embarrassment. It means he's trying to free you and heal you and empower you. Revelation, bringing things into the light, is God's move toward redemption. Because here's the thing, what you refuse to reveal, it will eventually reveal you. Usually at the worst moment, like your spiritual check engine light coming on mid-crisis. And so this year, I'm done hiding. I am done keeping things inside my spiritual house that destroy it from the inside out. It's about revelation now, and reveal is going to be my freedom word. And you could borrow it. As a matter of fact, you probably should borrow it. But what are we revealing? So let's talk about these two big categories that we're focusing on this year. The first type of revelation we need this year are The things that we need to reveal to God. These are the inward things, our motives, our fears, sins, anxieties, secret frustrations, or the things that we pretend we don't feel because good Christians don't think that. Well, sorry, newsflash. Good Christians feel everything. Jesus literally sweat blood, so we are allowed to be a mess. God already knows what's inside you. Revealing it isn't about informing him. It's about freeing you from it. And Psalm 139 is basically David saying, search me, know me, and reveal anything that I can't see. It's an invitation for God to shine a flashlight into the dusty parts of our heart that we avoid. And the second type of revelation is a hard one. These are the things that we need to reveal to others. James 5:16 actually tells us to confess to one another so that we may be healed. And your healing is often on the other side of someone else knowing the real you. That doesn't mean you share your deepest secrets with Karen from accounting. It means you have a trusted circle, maybe even just one person where you stop censoring your humanity. Shame grows in secrecy, and the enemy loves dark corners. As a matter of fact, the enemy is very rarely a creator of fear and shame. Instead, he specializes in using what you have already done to yourself and just multiplying it. He isn't creative. He's cunning. He knows that he can slip into your house and use your own knives to pierce your heart. But when you speak something out loud, the light breaks the enemy's influence. The enemy is like a vampire that likes to play in the dark and hides from the light, for the light will destroy him. When we keep things hidden, our identities are getting fractured. Our emotions come out sideways. Our relationships stay very shallow. Our spiritual lives plateau. Our habits go unchecked. And then our shame multiplies. And honestly, nothing good grows in the dark except mold and bad decisions. When we don't reveal our struggles, our stress, or sin, we don't get rid of them. We just let them fester until they explode into the, I don't know what came over me moment. But spoiler, you knew. You just avoided revealing it. I mentioned in a previous episode about my toxic people-pleasing habit. But what I didn't share is that through that rough situation being revealed, and the challenge of having to walk through it with others, it actually created healing from the toxic people pleasing. I finally experienced a freedom of how it showed up in my life. It broke these dangerous desires for attention and being liked, and I found a wholeness that I didn't know existed. And this is why God calls us to the light. It's not because exposure is fun, but because hiding it is exhausting. And Ephesians 5:13 says that everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and what is illuminated becomes light, which means what God shines on, he can transform. Okay, so we're on board. Hiding is out, revealing is in. But what does revelation actually look like in our everyday chaotic Target run school pickup line lives? Picking a word of the year is cute. But turning it into a practice, that's powerful. Reveal isn't a one-time big confession moment. It's a rhythm, a posture, a way of walking with God through the year. And here's what it can look like practically. I recommend daily actions. Ask God to reveal something that you need to see. A simple prayer of, God, reveal what I need to see today about you, about me, and about my patterns. And sometimes he's going to reveal something beautiful about your capacity, your calling, or your growth. And sometimes he's going to reveal something that's more uncomfortable, like your avoidance, or your motives, or your pride, or your exhaustion. Both are gifts. And then weekly, check what you hid this week. Ask yourself, what did I stuff down instead of expressing? What did I avoid dealing with? What emotion tried to tap out of the boxing ring this week? And did I pretend something didn't bother me when it absolutely did? And then monthly, reveal something to someone safe. This is not trauma dumping. This is not venting to Instagram. Someone safe. This could be a pastor, a friend, a counselor, your spouse, maybe a small group leader. Healing happens when things come out of hiding. And then seasonally, you could think about it this way. Let God reveal the blind spots in your life. This is deeper sanctification work. And Philippians 1:6 reminds us that God continues working in us. He reveals layer after layer, not to condemn, but to transform. Sanctification is basically spiritual spring cleaning, but for every season. God doesn't dump the whole junk drawer on us at once. He reveals one thing at a time, graciously, patiently, and lovingly. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes the reveal isn't what we show to God, it's what God shows us. And so sometimes the most transformative revelations are the one that God brings to your attention, even when you didn't ask for them. He can reveal why certain things trigger you, maybe the real root of your resentment, or a wound that you never addressed, a habit that's been draining your soul, or a calling that you've been avoiding. Maybe it's a relationship that needs boundaries, or a lie you have believed about yourself since childhood. These were all the things God revealed to me in that student meeting in a matter of minutes, simply because I just created the invitation for it. Jeremiah 33:3 says, "Call to me and I will answer you and reveal to you great and unsearchable things." Sometimes these revelations are encouraging. God can show you growth that you didn't even see. And then sometimes they're convicting. God shows you a pattern that needs to change. And then sometimes they're directional, and God will reveal what He wants you to do next. And let's be real, for me, this revelation was all the above. It is encouraging to find the trash pile and realize I'm not the trash pile. It convicted me so much that I realized I have been hiding the best parts of me, the worst parts of me, all because of fear. I have never been a capital F fear person. I didn't think I felt fear, and that's because I hid it. And it has been absolutely directional. I now have a word that's implanted in my heart that is going to guide my next steps. I know where I'm going because I know who is with me on the journey, and that's all I need. So, as God reveals and we reveal, what's the end goal? Restoration. And Jesus is the perfect picture of that. Jesus is the ultimate revelation. Hebrews 1:3 calls him the exact representation of God's nature. And John 1:5 says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it." Jesus doesn't just reveal the truth, He is the truth. Everything about Him speaks to the heart of this world. He reveals God's heart for the broken. He reveals that we are not defined by our failures. He reveals that there's belonging to those who have been outsiders. And He reveals grace and truth. He reveals redemption when we saw ruin. And here's the good news in Revelation. Jesus never reveals to shame. He reveals to heal, restore, and rebuild. And so if your idea of revelation feels like condemnation, it's not from Him. Okay, we've talked theology, life, vulnerability, but now let's put this into action. We have to talk about the practical ways that we're going to live out reveal this year. And there's a few tangible steps that you can actually implement today. Start with a reveal prayer. Every morning, just say, "God, reveal what needs light to me, inside me, around me, or ahead of me." And then choose one thing that you're hiding and bring it to light. Just one. Maybe it's fear, a habit, a financial stress, a relational tension, a sin pattern, or a boundary that you need to set. Whichever one is tapping on your heart right now. Yeah, that one. That's what you need to bring to the light. Let someone safe into your story. Healing accelerates when we stop pretending. And so inviting somebody safe into your life that makes those conversations possible is definitely the next step. And then notice what God reveals during discomfort. Instead of asking, why is this happening? Ask, what are you revealing through this? And then celebrate what God reveals that's good. It's not all heavy. Sometimes He reveals your growth or your courage or a dream that you forgot or a spark of purpose that's been buried. This one is one that I am going to start doing tomorrow. And it's write down revelations as they come. Keep a reveal journal because what God reveals over the year paints a bigger story than what you can see in any single moment. All right, friends, let's land this episode with a challenge because a word isn't powerful until you actually live it. This week, I want you to do one courageous thing. Reveal something that has been living in the shadows. It could be small, it can be emotional, it can be practical, or it can be spiritual. But choose one thing and bring it into the light. Tell God honestly how you're feeling. Admit something that you've been pretending isn't an issue really is. Share something with someone safe. Go ask someone for help. Set a boundary that you have been avoiding. And tell the truth about what's weighing you down. And then pray, God, use this reveal to lead me toward freedom. You're not meant to live hidden. You are meant to live whole. Now, let me leave you with a final encouragement before we close. Friends, this year doesn't need a new you. It just needs a revealed you. The you God already sees, already loves, and is already shaping into something remarkable. Revelation is not about shame. It's about freedom. It's about becoming the person that God designed you to be before the whole world told you to shrink, hide, or pretend. Your reveal is your release. Your reveal is your healing. And your reveal is your beginning. Now, if this episode resonated, share it with a friend who needs a little light this year. And as always, make sure you're subscribed to Faith It Till You Make It so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep revealing, keep healing, and keep faithing it till you make it.